In previous videos, I told about the most comfortable prison in the world, where prisoners live like a resort and are paid. Some prisoners even protest because they are not provided with the latest generation of gaming consoles. Now, let's come to the most terrifying super prison in the world. This super prison is also known as a terrorist detention center. To operate such a super prison requires a huge amount of funding from the government of the host country. To reduce this financial burden, the prison owners proposed to the richest country in the world, the United States, to rent part of the prison to detain dangerous criminals who are deported. The prison owners stated that this cost is quite cheap for the US, but is a significant source of revenue for them, helping them maintain a sustainable prison system model. This is truly a rare proposal, and we are talking about a super prison in Ensvado. Ensvado is a country in America. If you imagine or try to roleplay as a notorious gangster in Ensvado who once led a gang, running smuggling and mercilessly killing opponents, then there's one place you definitely don't want to set foot in: SECOT, the largest terrorist detention center in the world. These letters are the acronym in Spanish. This is not a prison in a traditional sense, but a machine that grinds criminals, a black hole that once criminals fall into, they will never see the sunlight, literally. Speaking of Ensvado, many people will immediately think of a small country located in Central America, full of gangs and violence. But that's only part of the story. In this land, every day is an action movie, with confrontations between police and criminals, between poverty and luxury, between beaches as beautiful as paradise and dangerous slums, some of the most high-risk places in the world. This is where the most dangerous capital city on the planet is located. We're just one step out on the street without protection money for a gang. You might say hello to your ancestors, but at the same time, this is also where there are beautiful beaches for surfers, resilient people, and a president who is trying to change an entire country with an iron fist policy, including the most terrifying prison on the planet. This is not an ordinary prison, but what could be called a city. The prison is 166 hectares wide and is surrounded by 11-meter-high walls with high-voltage wires strung above. This is not a place for the faint of heart. No one who enters here can contact the outside world. There are no phones, no internet, no press, only cold walls, rows of heavily armed guards, and a deadly atmosphere. SECOT is not only a place of detention, but also a place that makes even the toughest gangsters lose heart. Speaking of prisons, let's talk about the security system, the most concerned thing. And perhaps now many people are starting to think about Prison Break movies. SECOT has 8 reinforced concrete buildings. Each building has 32 cells. Each cell is about 100 square meters wide, with metal beds for 100 prisoners. Security at SECOT is certainly not mediocre. If anyone thinks about the story of digging tunnels to escape like El Chapo, or using bribed guards to open doors like in Hollywood movies, then forget it all. First, to escape from here, you must overcome a layer of concrete walls as thick as a military bunker, as high as a medieval fortress. But even if you have enough physical strength to climb it, the voltage of thousands of volts will turn you into a cooked piece of meat before you can think of the next step. And what is the next step? If you are lucky enough, you will have to defeat more than 600 soldiers and 250 special police officers who are constantly patrolling. Don't dream about using a pen as a weapon to drill through the wall in the old style, like in the movies. Because SECOT has a vibration sensor system that can detect even the smallest vibrations. And above, drones will constantly circle, monitoring every move. If your imagination is still rich, believing that you can overcome the electric fence, overcome the guard system, overcome the camera system, then there's no way to run, because SECOT is located in a remote jungle area surrounded only by heavily armed soldiers. Running away from SECOT is no different from walking into hell. And SECOT is another hell. Inside SECOT, there will be no small, pretty cells for each prisoner like in American movies. No beds, no mattresses, no windows. Only rooms that hold hundreds of people. No one is allowed to sleep privately, no one is allowed to shower comfortably, no one has a place to lean back. The bright light from LED lights shines 24/7, causing prisoners to lose their bearings, not knowing day or night. Every movement is controlled. Every bite of food must be waited for. Here, people don't live, they exist like animals locked in iron cages. Even going to the bathroom is not private. There's only a corner in the cell. Want to drink water? Wait until the guards distribute water according to a fixed schedule. And if you get sick, you have to endure it yourself because there's no decent medical care for prisoners here. Forget about visiting. No family, no lawyers. No one remembers who those who have entered here are. Once inside SECOT, people will disappear from the world as if they never existed. The truth is, most prisons in the world have a rehabilitation framework. That is, a place where prisoners can learn a trade, read books, or labor to reduce their sentences, or become a normal person when released. But at SECOT, there's no rehabilitation program whatsoever. That means there will be no classes, no books, no labor for prisoners, and no outdoor activities. No visits, no phone calls to family. Once inside, prisoners can only live in despair, with the only future being forgotten in prison. These things are terrible to tell, but why did Nesvado have to build such an inescapable prison? Nesvado, like many countries in the South and Central American region, is famous for its high crime rate, and with nearly 2% of the adult population serving sentences in prison. Nesvado currently has one of the highest incarceration rates in the world. The increase in the number of prisoners is the result of measures against gang violence, thereby putting heavy pressure on the country's prison system. In other words, criminals, instead of being on the streets, have now been put in prison. Let's go back in time before 2019, when Nesvado was one of the most dangerous countries in the world. The two most notorious gangs, MS-13 and Barrio 18, dominated the streets, with combats more brutal than action movies, 6,000 murders each year. That is, every 90 minutes, someone becomes the main character in a murder case. The president of Engovado, Mr. Nif Bukele, decided to do what no one dared to do before, which was to catch all the criminals and lock them in a place where they could no longer cause chaos. And so Psychos was born, becoming the detention place of tens of thousands of gang members. As a result, the murder rate in Engovado has decreased by more than 90%. On the streets, honest people have appeared more than bad people. People can now go out on the streets and feel especially comfortable during those hours that are not at night. There is a question asked at Seco Prison. Has anyone ever escaped from such a prison? If you have ever heard about shocking prison breaks, such as Alcatraz in 1962, or in Chapo digging a tunnel to escape from a Mexico prison, or gangsters using money to bribe guards to disappear in the night, then you will wonder if anyone has ever escaped from Seco. The short answer is no, and no one has ever escaped from this place. This is not entirely random. But because Seco is designed so that there is no loophole for any prisoner to successfully escape. No escape is possible because of the nose below of the Seco prison. First, there are no tunnels. Famous prison escapes such as Ultrapost in Miko all relied on digging tunnels, but Encicos completely lacks this possibility. The super thick concrete floor has vibration sensors, just a warning sign, and security will be activated immediately. The camera monitoring system operates without missing a second, and there's not a single moment that prisoners can comfortably plan to run away. The second no is that there's no way to contact the outside world. The third no is that no one dares to help prisoners escape, that is, no support from the inside. And the fourth no is that there's nowhere to hide if running outside because Seco is not located in the city, but in a remote mountainous area as mentioned, surrounded by densely patrolling soldiers. Even if someone miraculously managed to get out, they would be immediately hunted down. Although no one has ever escaped from Seco, it doesn't mean no one has ever tried. In April 2023, a group of MS-13 prisoners attempted to take advantage of the chaos during a prisoner transfer, but they were immediately detected and severely punished. Later, in July 2023, some members of the Barrio 18 gang tried to use sharp objects to pry open their cell doors, but the vibration sensor system detected them right away. Thus, all escape attempts ended before they could progress any further. Currently, there are two opposing viewpoints about Seco. Supporters say it's the best solution to eradicate crime, allowing the people of El Salvador to live in peace and tranquility. They believe that none of the prisoners deserve leniency because they have committed so many crimes, engaged in arson, and spread fear for decades. However, opponents argue that Seco is a brutal machine without fair trials. Many people are arrested without clear evidence, and once imprisoned here, they might wither away and die without anyone knowing. So what is Seco? Is it justice or hell? Is it a step forward for security or a human rights horror? Only one thing is certain, Seco is a place where even the most notorious criminals are terrified. There's no hope here, no light of freedom, there's only despair. With impenetrable walls, a security system so strict that no one can escape, and living conditions so harsh that the prisoners themselves are afraid. Seco is truly a black hole with no exit. Once inside, prisoners are no longer human beings. Without freedom, without hope, they can only wait for time to crush them and await their end in a place that even criminals dare not think about. But this is also a place that El Salvador is marketing to the United States to detain the most dangerous immigrants. Thank you for your interest in following this story.